Hi guys, it's Cyndi from Life and Times with Cyndi. The last time I left you off, I said that my family was celebrating a family reunion and we had service at my home church. And I also said that what was supposed to have been a trip for like maybe 6 days turned into 10 days. And basically, we had a couple of family emergencies. So after service on Sunday, and then my cousin getting sick and us having to send her in an ambulance to the emergency room, they kept her overnight. And so the next day, my mom and I went over to her home to pick up her laundry because we had decided we were going to wash her clothes for her and straighten up her house if needed, so that when she came back home, things would be in place, because she kind of left in a hurry because of going to the ambulance. She left early because of having to go to the hospital. So my cousin Barbara and my mom and I, we went over and we straightened up a little bit and looked for some clothes to take to the hospital for her so that she would have some things that were her own. And then we collected her laundry because we think that she had been washing her laundry at home, but I think there was something going on with her washing machine, and so she had washed some things in a tub. And so we collected her clothes, and my mom and I planned to go the next day in the morning to the laundromat and wash them, and then fold everything up, take it back, and then check with her to see what type of things she needed. So I want to say we went to see her at the hospital. Now that I think about it, first we went to see her at the hospital, and then we went down to where she lived to check in on her. So while we went to see her, as we were driving along, I decided that I wanted to have some video of the area in which my grandfather lived, because where my cousin lived was not too far from where my grandfather used to live, and my grandmother's and my mom's, where my mom grew up. They had since sold the property, so it doesn't belong in the family any longer. But sometimes you just realize there are memories that you just want to have. And even though the house has been sold, the people who brought it renovated it, but they made it look, the people who brought it, they renovate houses to kind of make them look like the original structure of the house, at least on the outside. And they did such an excellent job. And before my mom and my uncle sold the property, the people who refurbished it allowed us to go in and see it, and it was amazing. I will say that. I think my grandparents would have been so surprised and so happy as to how it turned out. And so, but I wanted to like have some type of visual of going down that road like I used to go visit my grandparents and even to go visit my cousin. So I videotaped us going there and then also going towards my cousin's home. She lived there with my great aunt, who was my grandfather's sister. And we didn't know at the time that it was probably going to be the last time that she went home. And so I'm glad now that I do have that footage, because I'm pretty sure that, you know, the home is not going to be in the family anymore. And so we went to visit her. She was okay. She didn't like the food in the hospital, which was funny, but she was in good spirits. And then after we had picked up the things from her house, we were like kind of standing in the yard talking, and my mom was talking to my cousin Barbara about like the history of our family and how each of the family was able to have property and then build houses. And I'm probably not going to put the actual footage of like what she was saying per se, maybe some of it, because it's kind of personal, but I decided I was going to videotape my mom telling these stories, because the one thing that I think as I get older is I realize how important it is that you know about the stories in your family so that you can then pass it on to the next generation. I really wish that I had done that with other family members who have passed on. I especially wish that, you know, I had recorded my uncle talking about, you know, all the different places that he visited, and him and my aunt used to like get in on his motorcycle. Then they would get in a van sometime and drive and go places. He had been all over the world, and I wish now that I had some type of documentation of that. So I just decided I was going to record my mom and my cousin talking, and just her kind of telling some of the history of the family. And then I remember standing in the yard and panning out with my camera to the area that was, you know, family property. And I realize now almost a month now later, that it's really important to document things, because you just never know how soon life is going to change. So we hung around outside for a little bit longer, and then we headed back to my mom's place. Now, Marcus had started feeling kind of sick on that Sunday, but he seemed like he was okay, so I really didn't think anything of it. But by the time we got back home, he was doing a lot of sleeping, which was unusual for him because when he's there with the nieces, he likes to hang out with them and talk and everything. But he was in my mom's room and he was really, really quiet. So my mom had been out earlier that morning. Like I said, we had been out to see my cousin. Now that I'm thinking about it, maybe I didn't go with her that first day. I think she might have gone like early in the morning to see my cousin to get her some stuff or to see what she needed, and then I went with her later on to my cousin's home to pick up things. So this was about, I want to say 7:30, 8 o'clock that night. And I went to check in on Marcus because we were going to be eating dinner. My mom and him eat a little bit later in the day than I do. And I remember looking at him, and he was huddled up in a blanket, and he was kind of sweating. And I said, "Are you okay?" And he was kind of shaking, and he said, "No, I don't think I'm okay. As a matter of fact, I think I need to go to the hospital." So if any of you all know my husband's history in the last few years, you know, him saying he needs to go to the hospital, yeah, that kind of freaks me out. He does not ask to go to the hospital unless he's really not feeling well. And so I said, "Well, what do you think is wrong?" And he said, "I just think it's possible that it's this or that." He says, "I really think I have an upper respiratory infection." Now, I had talked to enough people that I knew that some people who said they had felt like their sinuses were draining or that they had respiratory issues, that it was COVID. And so that was actually my first thought was, oh my God, he has COVID. We're here with my mom. We're here with the babies. We've all been exposed. I'm not even sure where he would have gotten it from. We've gone 2.5 years without catching it at all. And so I kind of freaked out a little bit, but my mom had the at-home test. And I said, "Well, I tell you what, let's check just to make sure it's not COVID." By that point, I was like, everybody put a mask on, you know, at least for the time period. And my mom and I was trying to figure out, do we call the ER? Because of his condition, I didn't want to just take a chance that it wasn't something else. And so we were trying to figure out, was I going to stay at the house with the girls? Was my sister going to take him, or was my mom going to take him? And my mom was already tired because she had been back and forth to the hospital to check on my cousin. And like I said, we had gone earlier that day to clean up and take care of some things at my cousin's house. And so long story short, we took the test. It came back negative, which of course I know, you know, that doesn't necessarily mean anything. But he was really feeling bad. And so my mom said, "I tell you what, I'm just going to take him to the emergency room and we're going to just see what happens." So by that time it was about 9:30 at night. They didn't get back until about 11:30, 12 o'clock at night. While he was in the hospital, they checked him. They actually did 2 COVID tests. Both came back negative. They said he had sinusitis, a sinus infection, and throat infection. So now when they told us that, I'm thinking, okay, he's had respiratory infections before, so they gave him some antibiotics, but he wasn't really sure that the antibiotics would work for him. He sometimes had reaction to antibiotics, but we got them anyway. My cousin actually, the same cousin who had been with us early in the day, she's a nurse, so she went and picked him up some antibiotics and brought him to the house the next morning. And he tried to be as comfortable as he possibly could. He didn't really sleep that well that night. As a matter of fact, I think he sat up in a chair most of the night and just watched TV. or dozed off when he could. And so the next day, he wasn't feeling any worse. And because we knew it wasn't COVID, we didn't really like stay away from, each other. And at one point, my niece could tell that he was not doing well. And these two have like a really special bond. My husband is a twin, and he is the younger twin. And he was also a preemie when he was born. And so my nieces are twins, and the youngest, the one who was born second, she actually had to be in an incubator when she was first born. And for whatever reason, the two of them have just really, really bonded. And at one point, she came in the room and climbed up in his lap and just sat with him for the longest time. It was the sweetest thing. I even took a picture of the two of them sitting there talking. And the thing is that I didn't think of this, and not that we necessarily think that he passed it on in any way to her, but we noticed that night that the other twin had started to not feel well. And she actually threw up, and she's the really active one, and she was not really moving and laying down and kind of lethargic. And we were like, okay, what is going on? And so it had been a really long couple of days. So like I said, into the next day, I think we were all just tired. We were just really, really tired, and we kind of just chilled the rest of that night and kind of into the morning. And the funny thing is that my mom and I had made plans to go to the laundromat the next morning, which we ended up doing. But I think I'm going to save that for another video. I thought I was only going to do 3 parts, but I think I'm going to do 4 parts just so that the videos are not too long. But needless to say, yeah, we had a lot of surprises that we were not counting on. My mom just kept teasing and saying, I went to the hospital, I think she said twice. Then I think about, because that day was just so confusing. I kind of forgot stuff myself. She actually went to the hospital early that morning, and then later that day, just before we went down to go get her laundry and some of the things that she wanted at the hospital, my mom had gone back up there again to take them some papers and some of her medication. So by the time she took my husband to the hospital that night, that was her 3rd visit that day. And so, needless to say, we were some tired people. And 2 days later, after all of this, I started to feel not well. And I just kept thinking, oh my goodness, I'm going to get sick. Who's going to take care of Marcus? Who's going to take care of me if I get sick? And then also I was concerned because within another week, we were scheduled to leave for Alabama. So I noticed it's like a cliffhanger, but what started out as this great week, in a lot of ways, slowly started to decline. And although, as you can see, Marcus and I are doing well, it took about 2.5 weeks for him to feel better. It took me about, I want to say, the week that I was in Alabama, I was just starting to feel better. So that was about 3 weeks for me. By that time, both girls had been kind of sick. And then by the end of when the girls started feeling better, my sister got sick, and she's still kind of dealing with the infections. I don't know what was going around, but I've talked to quite a few people who have been sick and didn't have COVID, Although you will find out that one of my family members did end up having COVID. Thankfully, my mom didn't get sick. She, as soon as people started dropping like flies and getting sick, she was like, yeah, I'm wearing my mask around all of you people. Y'all are not going to make me sick. And ironically, I think she was the only person who had gotten the third booster. But again, I even eventually tested myself, and I didn't have COVID. It was just some weird virus bug that was going around, and we all seem to have caught it. And so, yeah, I promise that the next installment is the last installment for this trip. But I hope, if nothing else, I've entertained you over the last couple of weeks. So if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't subscribed, like, what are you waiting for? And if you'd like to know when the next video will come out, all you have to do is hit that little notification bell below. So until I see you the next time, guys, have a blessed day. Bye.